Hi, I'm Danny Rich, and welcome to the Judgment Report. If you have talked to anyone about your Christian faith, I guarantee you it's come up. Someone will say to you, Jesus said you should judge not. Well, yeah, Jesus said that, but is the objection behind what they're saying really true? Are we as Christians supposed to make no distinctions, supposed to not tell anybody the truth as we know it because they might feel bad about it? Well, certainly not. First and foremost, the objection is logically false. When someone says to you, you shouldn't judge me, they're making a judgment against you. So it's circular and viciously so because they're applying to you a hypocritical standard. They're saying, I can judge you, but you shouldn't be able to judge me. And that actually flies in the face of what Jesus was teaching in that statement that they're quoting from. Because yes, Jesus did say, judge not. But it was followed with so much more. See, that passage where that comes from is in Matthew 7, is part of the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus does say, judge not. But then he goes on, that you be not judged. And then he goes on further to explain and clarify the statement. He's saying, whatever judgment you apply to others will be applied back to you. Then he makes an illustration and takes it even further. He says, if your brother has a splinter in his eye, don't go and point that out to him when you have a log sticking out of yours. It's talking very clearly about not being hypocritical in our judgments when we're trying to bring truth across to somebody else. That's a far cry from don't make any distinctions or judgments whatsoever. See, when people bring up that objection, it logically follows itself out to a ridiculous conclusion because it leads you going, I'm not allowed to make preferences because I'm a Christian, as if I can't say I like vanilla better than chocolate or vice versa. It does not make any good sense. And that's why Jesus clarified it. In fact, Jesus did command us to judge. In the Gospel of John, chapter 7, verse 24, Jesus said, judge not according to appearances, but judge with righteous judgment, with right judgment. That means knowing what is right and what is wrong, what is true, what is false, what is good and what is bad. And that standard, again, goes back to God's word. So when Jesus is telling us to make judgments, if we go back to the Matthew passage where he says, judge not, that you be not judged, he's telling us to be cautious and careful in how we go about spreading truth and giving truth to one another. First and foremost, it's a self-assessing thing that we need to do. We need to check ourselves first. For example, if you see somebody that has a problem with pornography and you're cheating on your spouse, maybe you should keep your mouth shut because your testimony to them is going to fall on deaf ears because of the hypocrisy behind that. You both have a problem with lust. It manifests in different ways, but yours is not a testimony they're going to take very well. And so we should be watching ourselves first, which means we should also be slow and careful in how we go about judging. Slow to do it. Today's day and age, the internet, every comment section and everything else, there's been hundreds of watchman ministries that are calling out pastors as heretics simply because they had a slip of the tongue in one video. And we need to be very careful about how we do that. We should be much more cautious about when we start heaping condemnation on one another. Because let's face it, if you go to a church regularly, I guarantee that you've come across somebody, a pastor, slip up and he'll, in the course of a sentence, he'll flip around Jesus and the devil. So they're in the opposite roles in the statement. And it's just a slip of the tongue. It's not like it was anything on purpose, and it doesn't mean that they're possessed or anything silly like that. They're human. They made a mistake. And a lot of times when you speak regularly in public, gaffes are going to happen. And yeah, they're going to be recorded, they're going to be on video, they're going to be out in circulation. And before you know it, someone's stringing together a line of your statements and calling you out as a false teacher. So we need to be very careful about how we go doing judgments and not just taking things out of context or not taking a look at the whole man. We can often use a fact in order to misrepresent things. As Andrew Clavin recently said in a talk at a university, he says people will use facts in order to misrepresent people. Because, if you talk about Martin Luther King Jr., and the first thing you say about him is, yeah, he cheated on his wife. I know about that guy, he cheated on his wife. And then you leave it there. You don't talk about all the rest. You're not painting a full picture of the human being, and you're misrepresenting them in the whole context of their lives. Obviously not condoning cheating on one's spouse. So we need to be slow, we need to be careful. Another thing that we need to be is just not to stick our nose in where it doesn't belong. If you're removed from the situation, you aren't close enough to make a proper assessment, don't have an opinion on it. We should be careful and cautious, because again, we'll come away with harsh judgments because we don't know all the facts about something, and we can too easily fall in the trap of condemning someone who just doesn't deserve it. And finally, when we do make judgments, make distinctions, and try and bring truth to other people, it should always be done in a spirit of reconciliation. Throughout the epistles, judgments are being made against people, against teachings, against teachers in the church, but it's always done in the hopes of the health of the body of the Christian church, but also the reconciliation with those. Paul put out some pretty harsh judgment when people were caught in open sin, but when he brought it to them, he rejoiced because people responded to the judgment with contriteness. They were sorry. They repented. They turned away from it, and people rejoiced because they had grown closer in fellowship. And that should talk about a little bit about the spirit in which we do deliver judgments. Jesus likened himself to a physician, and bedside manner counts. So when we come across, if we come across going, you're a sinner, you're going to hell, but come over to Jesus because he loves you, it doesn't come across very well. But when you come beside them and show them carefully and with an open heart, and you show them with compassion what the truth is, that means a whole lot more. It's like if a doctor goes to a patient and says, you got cancer, you're going to die, it really sucks to be you, doesn't it? But, if you do everything I say, you'll be okay. It's harsh. It doesn't come across very well. People may listen to you, but a lot of more people are going to bristle and not want to hear what you have to say because you speak in a harsh and cruel way, instead of having a bit of compassion and empathy when we do these things. See, that's one of the incredible things that Jesus showed us. He was harsh with hypocrites and with the religious leaders that are leading people astray. But when it came to people who were in their sin, in the full of it, Jesus didn't mince words about their sin, but he showed them compassion and love. He treated them like human beings and gave them the benefit of a doubt, that movement, that grace to listen and come to him and to be changed. See, Jesus said in John 3:16, we say it along, it's one of our favorite verses. For God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son, that whosoever should believe in him will not perish, but have everlasting life. It was framed in such a way that showcased God's love and his desire to lead people away from destruction and into life. But the passage doesn't just end there. It goes on, and it says that, Jesus didn't come into the world to condemn the world, but that through him the world might be saved. Because he didn't come to condemn. The world already stands condemned because it is rejecting the only Son of God. Not because of it's not doing everything perfect, but because it's rejecting the remedy. So be careful about how we present that remedy to people in the world. It should be done with an open heart, with love, with grace and humility. But while we're talking about judgment, we need to be careful on a couple other regards. there is areas we are told we have no jurisdiction to judge, and that is the thoughts and motives and intentions of somebody's heart. That is God's realm alone. We cannot pretend to know why somebody did something. So again, we have to be careful about, we focus more on the actions and point to people towards hypocrisy and to the damage that they're causing in their own lives and the lives of others, and that God's love and grace wants to redeem them from it, because it will lead them to not in this life and the next. So while we do so, again, remember that we are called to judge. We're told in the epistles to test everything, hold fast to what is good. Yes, Jesus did say judge not, but he didn't mean don't judge anything whatsoever, don't make a distinction. He meant to be righteous in your judgment. So as you go about living out the commission that God has given us to go out into the world and make disciples, to showcase Christ, to lift up that torch of truth, to lift Christ up before the people so that he can draw people to them, try your utmost to pray every day that God will have that character shine out from you, that character in the heart of Christ to be shown. Because it is he who draws men unto him, not us. So I pray that you will go in the spirit of truth, go in the love of Christ, and please serve the King with love and peace and humility. Hi, if you've enjoyed this video, we ask that you would like it, share, and subscribe to our channel. We also would encourage you to make comments, give us suggestions for topics for the future, questions that you may have, and as always, we appreciate your prayers. So please go in the love of Christ.